Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Let's be real for a second. Nobody was expecting the Minnesota Vikings to make the move that has ESPN analysts losing their minds. Nobody circled their calendar. Nobody put it in their group chat. But here we are, and Benjamin Solak, one of the sharpest analytical minds covering the NFL at ESPN, just dropped his off-season grades for the Vikings. And what he found was something so quietly brilliant, so under-the-radar devastating, that the rest of the league should genuinely be nervous. He called one Vikings move the best signing of any team this entire cycle. And no, it's not a flashy wide receiver. It's not a monster defensive end. It's a quarterback on a veteran's minimum deal. And if you're not already buckled in, you need to be, because this thing is about to get wild. We are talking about Kyler Murray. Yes, that Kyler Murray, the Heisman Trophy winner, the top 10 pick in the MLB draft, the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, the man who just signed with the Minnesota Vikings for the absolute absurdity of $1.3 million. $1.3 million. That is not a typo. That is not a rumor. That is the reality of what the Vikings just pulled off. And Solak isn't mincing words about it. He called the Murray deal the best signing of any team this cycle. Full stop, no asterisk, no qualifiers. Now let's put this in context, because numbers without comparison are just numbers. Jordan Love, the Green Bay Packers quarterback, who is your division rival, and a guy a lot of people will tell you is better than Kyler Murray right now, is on the books for $50 million next season. Jared Goff, the Detroit Lions quarterback who just took his team to the NFC Championship game, is making $45 million a year. We are talking about guys making $45 to $50 million annually to run an offense. And then there's Kyler Murray, $1.3 million. You could pay Kyler Murray's entire contract with the tip money from one of these guys' night out. The gap is so astronomical that it defies belief. Here's the honest take, and it's the one that matters most. Is Kyler Murray a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now? Maybe not. That's a fair conversation to have. But is Kyler Murray on a $1.3 million contract a top 10 value at the quarterback position in the entire league? Absolutely, unequivocally, without question, yes. In a sport where cap space is the ultimate currency, where franchises mortgages their future to pay a guy who might give them 12 wins a year, the Vikings just got quarterback production at a price that is, frankly, embarrassing for every other front office in the league. This is the kind of deal that makes general managers across the NFL lose sleep at night. And yet, and this is the part that genuinely boggles the mind, people are sleeping on Kyler Murray. There are Vikings fans, there are NFL analysts, there are people in comment sections right now who are treating this like some kind of consolation prize, like the Vikings settled. Let's be very clear about something. You do not win the Heisman Trophy by accident. You do not get drafted in the top 10 of the MLB draft by accident. You do not get selected as the first overall pick in the NFL draft by accident. That does not happen to guys who aren't obsessively, relentlessly, ferociously committed to their craft. That happens to elite athletes who have dedicated every fiber of their being to being the best. There was the whole Call of Duty clause thing. You remember that, right? When Kyler was with Arizona, his contract famously included language around studying film, and the internet went absolutely haywire. Everybody suddenly became a football expert with takes about how Kyler Murray just wants to play video games instead of preparing for games, and that narrative followed him all the way to Minnesota. But stop and think about this for 1 second. Would you rather have your starting quarterback hopping online, playing some video games with his teammates after a long week of practice, or would you rather have him out at the club at 2 in the morning making questionable decisions? Because those are often the real options. The Call of Duty clause didn't mean Kyler wasn't studying film. It meant the Cardinals had enough respect for his commitment that they were willing to put contractual language around making sure he did it. That's not an indictment of Kyler Murray's work ethic. That's the opposite. And if Kyler was a voracious reader who stayed up late consuming philosophy books instead of gaming, everybody would be calling him brilliant and cerebral. The double standard here is glaring. Now let's talk about the situation Kyler Murray is walking into, because this is where the story goes from interesting to genuinely electric. The Minnesota Vikings are a sleeping giant. We are not the only ones saying this. Fox Sports just published their list of the 5 teams most primed for a playoff return in 2026, and sitting at number 1, above the Kansas City Chiefs, above the Baltimore Ravens, above everyone, are the Minnesota Vikings. Let that marinate for a second. The Ravens, who just went out and signed Trey Hendrickson and brought in a new coaching staff and are building what looks like an absolute wagon of a defense, are sitting at number 4 on that list, and the Vikings are number 1. That is not an accident. That is not a homer take from some purple and gold blogger in Minneapolis. That is an independent football analyst looking at the roster construction, the schedule, the quarterback upgrade, and the organizational trajectory and saying this team is the most primed for a big jump in the entire NFL. And if you want to put your money where your mouth is, the Vikings are sitting at plus 550 to win the NFC North. You put $100 on the Minnesota Vikings to win their division, and if they pull it off, you're walking away with $550. That is extraordinary value. Odds makers still have them as massive long shots in a division dominated by the Lions and the Packers. But think about what this team did last year before you dismiss them. They won 9 games with Max Brown and J.J. McCarthy sharing quarterback duties. They won 9 games with Van Ginkel missing significant time. They won 9 games with Garrett playing through an injury, Blake Cashman missing a month, Aaron Jones out, Christian Darsaw barely healthy, and quarterback play that was at times genuinely painful to watch. 9 wins, with all of that going wrong at the same time. And here's the part that gets buried in the negative takes. Among those 9 wins were 2 victories against the Detroit Lions, the team that was supposed to run the NFC North and potentially reach the Super Bowl. The Vikings beat them twice. And on Christmas night, on Sunday Night Football, with the Dallas Cowboys' playoff hopes hanging in the balance, the Vikings went into their building and won. J.J. McCarthy had the game of his career. The Vikings embarrassed a team in prime time on the biggest stage of the regular season. That's not nothing. That's a program that is building something real. Now add Kyler Murray to that equation. Add a healthy offensive line. Add players returning from injury. Add a cornerback like James Pierre bolstering the secondary. And you have a team that goes from 9 wins in a disaster year to potentially 12 or 13 wins in a year where everything is clicking. The win total sitting at 8.5 for the Vikings is baffling. They won 9 with everything going wrong. With Kyler Murray under center and a healthier roster, 8.5 wins as a Vegas over-under feels like free money. All right, now let's give credit where credit is due, because Solak also called out a move he wasn't thrilled about, and it's one that deserves an honest conversation rather than a victory lap. He pointed to the Eric Wilson extension as a move he's skeptical of. 3 years, $22.5 million for a linebacker who is 31 years old and just had what was, by all accounts, a breakout season. And the concern is a legitimate one. Breakout seasons from 31-year-old players are notoriously hard to replicate. When you see a guy who spent his career as a depth linebacker and special teamer suddenly turn into one of the most disruptive linebackers in the league, the analytical part of your brain starts asking some uncomfortable questions about sustainability. And Solak is right to ask them. Wilson's coverage numbers last season were not exactly inspiring. A 36.7 coverage grade from Pro Football Focus is not going to win any awards. He had 6.5 sacks. His pressure rate was 21.9%, which is genuinely elite. Brian Flores schemed him into an absolutely perfect role, exploiting the fact that Jared Gibbs and David Montgomery were not keen on picking up blitzes, and Wilson made them pay for it every single week. The Lions games alone were a masterclass in defensive scheming. Flores looked at the film, saw the matchup, and just sent Wilson every single time. But the question is whether that lightning can strike twice in the same bottle. The Vikings' linebacker depth behind Wilson and Blake Cashman is, to put it charitably, thin. And if Wilson regresses to anything close to his career average level of production, the team could find themselves in a difficult spot with two 30-plus-year-old linebackers and not much behind them. The solution, the one that makes the most sense given everything we know about what Flores wants to do defensively, is to address linebacker coverage ability in the draft. A guy who can match up with slot receivers, who can stay with tight ends on third down, who can give the defense a different look when Eric Wilson's blitzing tendencies become too predictable. That's the piece the Vikings need to add to make this defense truly dangerous. But here's the other side of that coin. The Eric Wilson contract is 3 years at $22.5 million. That is not the Javon Hargrave deal. That is not the Jonathan Allen deal. This is not a contract that will handcuff the Minnesota Vikings cap for the next half-decade. If Wilson has one more great year, the deal is already worth it. If he regresses, it's manageable. The Vikings made a calculated bet on a player their defensive coordinator trusts implicitly at a price point that doesn't break the bank. There are worse things a front office can do. The bottom line is this: the Minnesota Vikings are building something that the rest of the NFC should be paying very close attention to. They got the best value signing in the entire NFL this offseason in Kyler Murray. They're bringing back a defense built by one of the most creative minds in the league in Brian Flores. They have a young quarterback in J.J. McCarthy who flashed genuine star potential before his injury, and now a veteran insurance policy in Murray who costs next to nothing. They have players returning from injury who were impact contributors before they went down, and they are sitting in the NFC North, a division that, yes, has the Lions and Packers, but a division they've beaten before and will beat again. Forget the doubters. Forget the people who look at the over-under and say 8.5 wins is the ceiling. Forget the narrative that says the Vikings are just happy to be competitive. This team is being built to win a division title, to make noise in the playoffs, and to prove that smart roster construction beats big money splashes every single time. Kyler Murray at $1.3 million is Exhibit A in that argument. The Viking Nation is awake, and the rest of the NFC is about to find that out the hard way. If you made it to the end of this video, you already know what time it is. Drop those skulls down in the comments, and let's see who's riding with the purple and gold all the way this season. And if you believe Kyler Murray is about to ball out for the Vikings, give him those K1s right now. Show QB1s some love. We are 99 subscribers away from hitting 1,000 here on the channel, and I promise you there are people watching this video right now who have not hit that subscribe button yet. We post multiple videos every single day. Breaking news, analysis, live shows, all of it centered around your Minnesota Vikings. Go down there, smash that subscribe button, and let's build this community together. See you guys next time. Skol Vikings.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.